taking to part 3 of this inspirations for my book, Casalte 72, a little bit more Casalte 72. And I encourage people, if you're able to get the ebook, it's cheaper, and I believe that things that were problematic aren't so problematic in the ebook version. But I will share the fact is these are good stories. They're actually movies. They're when I get a chance to, I'm gonna start filming. It might take a while. It might take 5 to 10 years, but I believe that these are good stories that not just for a Christian audience, not just for a Filipino American audience, but for anybody interested in information and learning about other people. Some people, and I hate to say this because it's a cliche, but we're more alike than different. We are more alike than different. Our differences can be shown through love, through uh, drama, through tragedy, through triumph, through just facing stuff with God. Now, here's another story. Uh, this one is Nona's story. When you come down to, where are we at here? Oh, okay, hold on. I did Nona's story based upon the fact is that what happens after Gen X? Gen X had kids. That I didn't so much go into the millennials, but I did go into the Gen Z. What happens post COVID? COVID's over, and I took story this place known as podcast in the year 2024. So COVID's not even an issue anymore. But what happens is people still want to look back on the past. So Noah's podcast is a young woman in her 20s. And all these stories I try to take place, what's it like for a Filipino American that's 20 something years old, that's in their 20s? Every generation is different, but at the same time, every generation is the same. You're going to have stuff going on with Noah's podcast. And then it takes us all the way to the end of the story. Now, the end of the story takes it full circle back to Elpidio. One thing about Elpidio is his situation, circumstance, his identity was changed. And what I found out, what I realized and recognized is this happens a lot. There's a lot of young men, their identity they put out in their name, their last name. Who is their father? What is their last name? A lot of these guys have their last name tattooed on their back as a badge of honor, because sometimes you raise in the streets, you're raised in certain sides of town, the poor sides of town. You don't have anything but your name and your reputation. So what do you do if you built your reputation on your identity? But it leaves a couple questions open. What do you leave when your identity is thrust upon you, your name is thrust upon you, and you come to a new country and your name gets changed? When your identity that you've had for thousands of years, hundreds of years, you were thought of you one thing, but your identity gets changed in a split second by either a naval officer or a person doing the books for your immigration papers. Your physical name gets changed. Does your identity change? Do you remember the things of your past from when you grew up, the problems and the sadness and the devastation that you witnessed in your life? Does that go away? William Shakespeare said it this way: a rose by any other name will smell just as sweet. That's from Romeo and Juliet. Now what happens is, what if you as a character, your name was one thing, you came to the United States and your name was physically altered. You were altered. Your identity was altered. Nowadays, there's a lot of young men, a lot of young women that are in their 20s that are going through identity crisis. They don't know who their identity is. Just in general, they don't know who their identity is spiritually, gender-wise. They don't know what their identity is. There's confusion. what happens if your identity, your name was changed? And I look at this from the biblical perspective. There were a number of men in the Bible. Their names were changed. Saul was changed to the Apostle Paul. You had um, the story of Daniel in the lion's den. His name was changed when he went to Babylon. Then you had the other names. Moses. Moses had a Hebrew name, and then he was raised up, and the idea of he was raised up in a couple places, but he was raised as the Prince of Egypt. And you have other stories of people. Joseph in the Old Testament, his name was changed. What happens with Israel? Jacob's name was changed to Israel. You know, Jacob's name was conniver. He was the one that was a storyteller. He was a Jacob the liar, they called him, and he was changed to Israel. Now, what happens when your name is your identity is changed? You change with that. It comes sometimes. I've heard it time and time again. You're in America. You have an opportunity for success. You have an opportunity to grow. You have an opportunity to be something you're not in your old place. I had a family friend that I would talk to, and sometimes I would joke around people that go to the different countries. They call them LBH. Why are they called LBH? Because they're a loser back home, but over in this third world country with $1,000, they're like a multi-millionaire. But they're LBH back home, but over there in wherever a third world country they go to, either Latin America or Southeast Asia, their $500 gets them a lot of different things. Gets them caught up in a lot of situations. As like I said, this book is a work of fiction. On one hand, it's something to say, yeah, this is not true. But on the other hand, they're highly influenced by true life stories. Things in my past, things in my family's DNA, stories and cultures, little side stories that happened to my uncles, to my aunts, to my cousins, to my coworkers, old friends, acquaintances I've met. Some people I've met maybe one day at the laundromat. They would break it down, tell me stuff about their life and what happened. And I use that and I switch it around. So it won't get back to me, but I switch it around. So, man, that's a good story. That's a real life story, but I'm going to switch. The person's name was Sarah, so I'm going to make this person, name her Deborah instead of Sarah or something like that. But so people have asked me, where do I get the ideas for my stories? That's where I get the ideas for my stories. And this concludes Inspirations for Casalte's Blade. So if you get a chance, ebook is available. The free website, you can find it on the free website right there. Okay, you guys take care. God bless you. Amen.